You're probably wondering why I'm making a video about this random stage, instead of doing a clear of the, let's call him the Snow Bear. Well, I probably will do a clear of that stage at some point, but I honestly have more to say about this one. When I finished this stage for the first time, my immediate reaction was, yeah, this is why I play Arknights. That was a great stage. So I'm making this video on this stage because I think it deserves more recognition. Before we talk about the stage though, let's talk about some of the great things Hypergriff did with the Chapter 16 mechanics. I won't dive into the actual details, but there's two general things I want to praise them for. First, Hypergriff finally managed to make civilians fun. The first civilians they released would cause you to lose a life seal if they died, and like most video game escort missions, they are generally viewed as unfun. The combination of having little to no agency over them, and the fact that their deaths result in essentially an immediate game over, means they feel more like a burden than anything else. Over time, Hypergriff has been tweaking this formula, with more recent ones like the Syracusan civilians, who no longer take life seals away, but instead cause strong enemies to spawn sooner. But at the end of the day, they're still annoying, because they are ultimately burdens. The Chapter 16 miners flip this entirely. These guys aren't helpless, useless nitwits running around like headless chickens. If you protect them, they will scout for you, they will block for you, they will debuff enemies, they'll even kill some of the weaker ones. If you let all your miners die, you'll probably still lose the stage like with other civilians, but the cause and effect is a lot less direct, and a few deaths can still be compensated for with good play. In other words, the Chapter 16 miners feel like another item in our toolbox to build our clears with. And because of that, they don't feel like burdens, and they don't feel aggravating to play with. The other topic I wanted to talk about is medics. We're now at a point in the game's life where medics are often considered largely irrelevant. We have super powerful DPS units that can kill enemies before they can do anything, like Gwishadel. We have strong crowd control to keep enemies away or unable to attack, like Tragodia. We have strong units that can't be healed, like Mudrock and Penance. Units that heal themselves, like Ulpianus and Gladia. Units that simply don't die, like Hoshiguma Alter. And of course there's tons of role compression too. Guardians like Shu, Abjurers like Haruka, Alchemists like Thorns. Medics have been sidelined for a while, so it's nice that HG have found a way to make them incredibly potent. Even if it is just for one chapter, I don't think that's an issue. It's a good way to introduce some variety. So with all this in mind, while I was playing 16-7, I started thinking about the people at Hypergriff that make Arknights. I imagined some level designer sitting at his or her desk late at night, and I could hear their voice. And it was the voice of a teacher, an angry one that had been watching their students slacking, watching their students copy articles from Wikipedia, watching their students using AI to do their assignments. Except in this case it's not Wikipedia and AI, but instead Wishadel and Ulpianus and Moinar and Ines and all the other meta units. And now that anger has erupted, and that teacher is here with a pop quiz. Do you understand the mechanic? Have you read what the enemies do? Have you been paying attention the last few stages? Have you been watching how these systems interact? Yes? Really? Then prove it! Show me! The stage starts with most of the map covered in pollution. The game wants you to focus on the one singular problem in front of you. You have a monstrosity of a 3 blue box lane, and 5 unblockable enemies. And the only thing standing between them are 4 miners. If the miners die before the infiltrators are defeated, there's a good chance you're going to lose. It's probably possible to nuke these first 5 enemies if you have some strong DPS like Gwishadel, but that doesn't solve the root problem. and unblockable enemies will continue to trickle in from both sides of the map over the course of the stage. Once you consider the mechanics though, the opener becomes incredibly straightforward. You just put a medic down. It's unintuitive in the context of Arknights, but once you think about how the event mechanic works, it becomes blindingly obvious. The initial positions of the miners in the range tiles are even set up to accommodate the ranges of most medics. And once you have your medic up, the miners do most of the opening for you. They hold back the enemies for so long, you can even use a liberator like Tequila to cover 2 of the lanes. Overall, the stage isn't very difficult, at least as far as enemy stats are concerned. The commander can be pretty easily stopped with a defender and medic, so the only real threat is the mech that shoots AoE rockets. But all this is assuming that you're making effective use of the chapter mechanic. I obviously can't say how people in general fared against this stage, but I'd wager that despite being fairly early, and despite having a recommended level of E1 level 50, this is probably the first stage that would have given pause to people mindlessly using the cream of the crop meta operators. And this is why I like both this stage and Arknights. The general power of operators has been increasing over the years, but you can still beat these stages with Year 1 units or low rarity units or whatever niche you want to play with. Arknights doesn't need stat bloat to give you a challenge. All Hyperglyph needs is an interesting mechanic that they can explore. If you're paying attention, you don't need to use the busted meta operators. And I think this stage is a great illustrative example of this. Thanks for watching.